The big stock market downturn of 2016 really had its origins in China. Now, we already knew the Chinese economy is slowing down. This is a big reason why Canada's been struggling. China was the big customer for raw materials, things like metal, oil, minerals, and these are all things that Canada produces. So we already knew that. But what happened is early in the year, the Chinese stock market took another big dive, and now investors are starting to question whether the China story maybe isn't quite as they've been led to believe by officials in Beijing. Maybe it's not a gradual slowdown, but instead something more sinister, a big uncontrolled crash that would have reverberations around the world. The other big question on investors' minds is the price of oil and just how low it can go. It wasn't long ago that people thought $50 a barrel was the absolute floor. Now it's at about $27, $28 a barrel. People are saying it could go down to 10. Now, unless you're a country like Canada that produces oil, generally for the global economy, cheap oil is seen as a good thing. But what seems to be happening now is investors are growing concerned that instead of acting as a tailwind for the global economy, this cheap oil might be actually a symptom of what's called a deflationary spiral. And this is when people stop spending money because they think prices are going down, and if I wait a day or two, things will be cheaper. Now, if everyone does that en masse, then people stop spending, the economy slows down even further, and it becomes a spiral that's very difficult to break out of. What's going on in the U.S. economy is another big question in the minds of investors. Now, so far, the U.S. Has looked to be basically the strongest thing going in the world, and many other countries are basically hoping to kind of ride on its coattails, particularly Canada. But now that we've had all this sort of questions about the price of oil and what's going on in China and whether this is going to affect the U.S., people are starting to look a lot more closely at economic data in the U.S. to see if they can spot signs of recession. If the U.S. does go into a recession, that could be a very bad situation for Canada. We're already being hit hard by what's going on in China and kind of looking for the U.S. to pick up the slack. So, I mean, if the U.S. starts to go into a downturn, Canada will effectively be hit with a double whammy, and the rest of the world could also see its growth sputter as well.